Hello and welcome. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, with David Cooper. I'm your host, David Cooper. It is This Is Going Well, I Think, the show where nobody's listening, the show where no one cares, the show where everyone's the last one. Today we have a pretty big deal in the naturist, not nudist, naturist community. He runs a naturist park in Ontario called Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. He's the president of the International Naturist Federation. He's a great guy, an interesting talker, and I'm looking forward to having him rather naked on this show. Oh, and his name's Stéphane Deschênes. I should have led with that, shouldn't I have?
I don't know if you ever tried doing multi-mics with USB. It kills your computer because computers can't do more than one thing at the same time, right? So to do multi-mics, you need really XLR and analog. But for a single mic, it's perfect.
I was talking to another guest, and she mentioned she was doing this insane dating podcast where she was going to do 30 dates in 30 days.
Oh, yeah?
And she's like, I don't know, a very eccentric individual. And then she says, what kind of audio equipment should I get? This is on my show, and I went down the rabbit hole for 20 minutes like a terrible interviewer because I didn't ask a single question about this kind of like salacious podcast. First of all, thank you for coming here. I loved working with you when I did that show for Bell, and I'm so glad you're agreeing to do whatever the fuck this is.
Oh, so this is a different show.
Yeah, this is, so Bell, they ended the show. My therapist has encouraged me to say I didn't get canned. But yeah, there's nothing in that time slot now.
They cut everybody. It was a mutilation of their asset. I don't know. They're just not interested, obviously, in true news and content. They just, I don't know why they did that.
I'm going to talk about a company that isn't Bell. It's an imaginary company called Leb. Basically, if you don't give your radio assets love, they're not going to perform well. And then when they don't perform well, you're like, why would I give this any love? And you get in this horrible feedback cycle. Every year, it's like, this thing that we own in our media conglomerate isn't making any money. Why don't we give it even less money? Because it's worthless. And then it generates you, because the morale's terrible. Again, this is not Bell. This is a company called Leb.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happens. And Leb is not the only guilty one.
No. It's everybody who bought these media assets don't understand them, and there's plenty of business available, but you just have to understand it. And they're treating it like they're treating their cellular service or their telephone cable service, their DSL service. It's not the same thing.
But even the one media company that only owns media stuff, it's definitely not Chorus.
Which one's that?
It's definitely not Chorus. Let's call it Soloist. Yeah, this company called Soloist. They don't have to, like, they compete with Leb and the other company that isn't Rogers. So they're shitty too, apparently, even though they're just in the media business. Like, they don't have a cell phone arm, basically.
I know.
Anyway, I've already started taping. I'm going to get in trouble for this. But yeah, I want to...
you didn't record this. Oh, no, it's in...
I always start the taping when the guest comes, because I feel like the best nuggets are at the beginning. But as a result of doing that, my commitment to you is if you don't want to be put out as trashing Bell, I'll cut the whole beginning.
Oh, I will publicly trash Bell. I have no problem. I'm not... First of all, trashing Bell would probably get me points with the actual media assets because everybody there would love to hear me trashing Bell, their owner and employer. So it's not like I'm afraid of a backlash. So, yeah.
And we're not even saying anything too bad. I just, no. So that show ended. I fell into a bit of a funk, right? Like, I had this career in the technology sector. I started doing a little stand-up comedy. I randomly fell into radio, realized I loved it, saved enough money to quit, didn't know what the fuck I was doing with my life, somehow got in front of the station manager at News Talk 1010. Somehow they put me on air. Somehow they ended up giving me the show. And I was like, wow, I'm the thing that I quit my job to do. The money wasn't great, but I was doing it. And then the show ended. I fell into a bit of a funk, but now I'm doing this. So
No, it's cool. No, it just said David Cooper. I said, I know David. So I said, okay. And I just assumed it was the same thing.
That's why I wanted you on. You're a great talker. I always had fun with you on that other show.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Me too.
So yeah, no, that's cool. You know what you should do is you should do a podcast and then syndicate it and get stations to buy it from you.
Trying to do that, working with an agency. They want me to kind of figure out what it is and grow the listenership a bit before that happens. But yeah, some of the ex-Bell employees started a little agency and I'm sort of one of their, I don't know, clients or whatever. So
you're the naked host. You do all these radio shows naked. Doesn't matter because nobody can see it. And then you invite other people to be naked with you.
I mean, I would be down for that. Have you heard of this place in San Francisco that I used to go to called the Archimedes Banya?
No.
It is a co-ed, very bohemian Russian steam bath. And cool. I would always go with my girlfriend and my friends. And then I go to Burning Man every year. So nice, that's like the extent of my public nudity. But I grew up in a naked house. I find I didn't realize this is a thing. There's naked houses where the siblings, the parents, maybe they're not naked all the time, but they do walk around naked. It's no big deal.
Right.
And then there's non-naked houses where the idea that you would see anyone in your family naked is absurd to you. And so I grew up in the former, so nudity doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. It sells, it gets attention. You do it right.
Yeah, I guess. I'm a grower, not a shower, Stéphane. And it's like,
yes, but it's radio. Nobody's going to know it no matter what.
Yeah, but I've admitted to it. Last week we had doctors on. Apparently this is a new thing. Maybe you've heard of this. I had two doctors on, one plastic surgeon, one urologist, who do these new penis injections, which are like Botox for your dick. I mean, it's not Botox, but and apparently it's very safe. At least that's according to the doctors who do it. Have you heard of this?
No.
This is the antithesis of what you're trying to do, like body acceptance. Yeah. But one of them was just a total wackadoodle Trump supporter. Like Biden didn't really get elected. So I didn't even end up talking about the penis injections. I just went down the rabbit hole with them.
Do you know the show Ideas from CBC?
I do, yeah.
I've just listened to a 3-part series that was done on masculinity. And it was fascinating because it was, Trump supporters and the right and extreme traditional masculinity all lumped together. And what they were doing is discussing and analyzing, and people like, what's the guy in, Romania that got arrested because he ran a sex ring?
I love that I forget his name, but it was in the media, that really douchey, like men's,
who I'm talking about.
Pick-up artist type, Yeah, I do know his name. I'm going to get it for you.
Their point is that all these guys, there's lots of men that are hurt because they've lost that identity that they thought they were. Mm-hmm. And people like him are apparently he's worth like $300 million. And they're sucking money out of these people by telling them that it's okay to be an asshole because that's what it's like to be a man. And it makes them feel good and feel better about themselves.
And validates them.
And so they pay him all this money. And the guys are saying, they're being abused. They are being, it's the ultimate grifter of selling snake oil. By telling this stuff. And I thought it was a fascinating, it wasn't just that, but it was 3 parts, 1 hour each. That's 3 hours of radio. But if you have a chance, it made me question, why don't I feel that? Did you know that men are 3 times more likely than women to commit suicide right now?
It's sad. I mean, there is a problem, but the solution is not what that guy Andrew Tate, I just looked it up, is offering.
Andrew Tate, there you go. Yeah, that's the guy.
And it's not what the Trump-a-doodle, wackadoodle, the left is trying to assault our traditional way of life, and our traditional way is we're assholes. That's not the answer, but there is a problem there.
There's absolutely a problem. But and the problem is that, in my opinion, because I don't have that. And I was thinking about, why don't I have this feeling? And it's because it's never been part of my identity. Like if you say, Stéphane, who are you? A man is not the first thing I'm going to say. I may never say it. I'll say, I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a naturist, I'm a marketing person, I'm a lot of things. I'm a geek. man is not, doesn't even come to mind. Like, I know it's who I am. I'm not saying I don't know that I'm a man, but it's not my identity. You know what I mean?
I agree what you're saying, and I love what you're saying, but there are certain things baked in there that imply that you are a man. You're like, I'm a father, I'm a husband. So it is implicit in some of those labels.
It is. Well, that's because of the nouns that we use. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. But what that means, though, it's not an identity. It's what I am, but not an identity. Do you know what a difference? Like, I think most of the male-female thing is a social construct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Imagine a world where gender is like, you've got curly hair. Like, it's just, you don't identify yourself as the curly hair guy, right?
No.
You identify yourself as many things, but probably not the curly hair guy.
Glasses wearing, I do, but that's not an inherent thing. I suppose bad vision is, but like that's an accessory. But go on.
Right, but it's who you are. You don't start, let's say, David, who are you? I say, well, I'm a guy who wears glasses and got curly hair. It's your identity, but it's not because that's who. But it's not how you identify. I don't know maybe I don't. I got to find the better words for it. But if gender was the same way, yes, you are a man. I'm a man, and there are women. But imagine there was no men or women's washrooms anywhere. You didn't put it on your driver's license or your passport. In the store, there was no men or women's clothing. There was just clothing sections, and people pick from whatever. Like, gender just becomes a thing. Would you even have people wanting to change their gender? Because would it matter anymore?
No. I mean, maybe they would want to have different, genitalia, which is fine, maybe. Whatever. They're adults. They can do whatever they want with their body. I mean, people get breast implants. People get tattoos.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely not. But it's interesting. You're talking about like this masculine identity that's so strong in the right that this guy Andrew Tate is pushing, and he's a grifter. How do people get that way? Like, it's embedded in a certain part of the culture, and you have to make the choice for yourself to change it. Now, maybe you weren't raised that way. I wasn't necessarily raised that way, but there are parts in the U.S. where your parents are that way, your friends and community are that way, and it validates it. So that's kind of like the identity thing. But then there's the problem of like why people are depressed, why the suicide rate's high, why men are more. I think it's unfettered capitalism. I really do.
Well, it's that. But it's also it's this, as they said in this thing. People have been abused, essentially. They've been raised with this, that told that man up, that they're supposed to be in charge and they're supposed to control things. And if they can't, they get depressed because they feel they have no control, and they're supposed to. But that's the flaw, is in the first place being told that you're supposed to be in control and in charge all the time because you're a man and you need to man up,
Yeah, I agree.
Grow up hair, whatever.
But if I want to get really like, first of all, I'm not a communist. I'm like into social democracy. I love capitalism, but I think it should be controlled at the very top. The very rich should only have one private jet, and the very poor shouldn't bleed on the street. They should be given housing and food and necessities. So, but that's a little bit more there in Canada. Like the very top and the very bottom's a little closer together. In the U.S., it's so far gone. And these people, and the boogeyman is the left. The boogeyman is the people who want to change their identity. And I think that is a part of it. I really do.
Well, unfeathered capitalism leads to no capitalism, because it leads to monopolies. Mm-hmm. It leads to one company buying another until there's no competition, and you have an oligopoly or something like that. And so that's where you lose. I also believe in capitalism. People say capitalism is the root of all evil. Money is the problem. I said, no, capitalism is human nature. It's just the way it is. When you try to control the economy totally, you get black market. Look, historically, capitalism is always going to be there. So work with it instead of fighting it. Is human nature. And money. This is the one that kills me always. I meet these people who say, no, I'm into bartering. I'm into bartering because money is the root of all evil. I said, okay. So I've got a cow and you're going to sell me a basket. I don't need 150 baskets. How do you work this out? I said, oh, well, we have a credit system. I said, that's money.
But wait, it's cryptocurrency. Yeah. But it's funny. So I agree that capitalism is great, but I think, like, for example, the U.S. government like up until the 60s, 70s, they acted like the hero of the working class. They would break up monopolies. They would investigate monopolies. They would prosecute people under the Antitrust Act who were acting against labor's best interest. They don't do any of that shit now. Anything.
No. Google and Facebook should be broken up. The way we broke up Bell in the U.S.
Leb.
In the U.S., Bell.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, sorry, you're right. I was in Silicon Valley when that court case was going through, when like some of the major players, I think like Google, DreamWorks of all places, but what's the other, LucasArts, their technology arm. It was Google, it was Facebook, it was Google, Apple, LucasArts, and a few other major players. And they were so stupid that they had written documentation of executives saying, hey, don't poach our employees. And these massive companies, you couldn't hire an Apple employee if you worked at Google. That was like an unspoken rule. And they were so like in their own asses about what they had the right to do as a large corporation. They didn't even think to just have the conversation. They had it in written emails from the very top. The government came in and basically like slapped them on the wrist, like fined them a couple $1 million. The amount of money, I mean, it's hard to feel bad for them because these employees are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Yes.
They're not like, steel workers, but the crime against the labor market is the same. They conspired to basically set wages by causing these employees the inability to hop from job to job. I was there when it happened, and I was shocked that the amount of punishment these companies got. They got a slap on the wrist. In my opinion, people should go to jail for that shit. Just like I should go to jail for stealing money out of the cash register if I'm working in a shop.
Oh, yeah. But if you're part of the ruling class, you don't go to jail. I mean, the only way you go to jail is if you screw the rest of the working class, and then they get you. What was the guy who was running a Ponzi scheme?
Oh, you mean they screw the rest of the rich class? Bernie Madoff.
Yes. Yeah. When somebody within the club screws the other guys in the clubs, then there is no mercy. They destroy you.
Steal from the poor, get caught, slap on the wrist. Steal from the poor, don't get caught. You're a great capitalist. Steal from the rich, they're throwing you in for life.
Yes, they are.
Maybe that's why Trump's never going to go to jail. The people that he's exploiting are the most vulnerable. Like his voters are not, generally speaking, like the kind of ruling class.
I know. How does this happen? Why are the working people not the part of the Labor Party or something? Instead of, why are they part of the Republican Party? I don't understand this. The Republicans are traditionally was the party of Wall Street and the rich. I'm not sure it still is anymore, but I don't know where they'd go.
It's the greatest trick, the greatest grift of all time. Like, it's insane to me that the people who could benefit from universal or single-payer healthcare in the U.S. are the people who are bleeding, the people who don't have enough money, the kind of people who are going to be bankrupt when they have their first medical emergency. Those are the people who think that healthcare is the root of all evil because it's government control.
Oh, but David, you have choice now. You have choice.
I mean, I benefit from the U.S. system because I had great healthcare with my tech company. My girlfriend still works in that industry. I'm on her plan. Like, it's very easy for me to say Canada has a better system when I benefit from the U.S. one. But you're right. I don't know. Living in San Francisco and seeing people bleed on the street, literally bleed on the street, and nothing being done for them. I'd rather have worse healthcare, wait a little bit longer, and not have to walk to work and see people bleeding. It's.
I'm with you, and to me, it's just logical. And the logic. This is the other part that's funny. This whole criticism that everybody who has higher education is liberal, and you go, yeah, maybe there's a reason. Maybe there was when you spend a lot of time learning and thinking, you become more liberal or more social minded. Maybe there's a reason. It's not indoctrination.
I agree with all that, but the highly educated Republicans are the most dangerous ones.
True.
There are a few of them. Like a lot of the Congress people are like lawyers from Harvard and stuff, and it's like they're very smart and they know how to run the grift.
Yeah, well, that's Andrew Tate.
Well, not the very smart part, but yeah.
Well, he got caught, so he's obviously not very smart. He just pushed it way too far.
Well, he didn't get caught grifting. He got caught human trafficking. Is that part of the grift? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the details. I mean, you're in Romania. Who knows exactly what you have to do? Maybe you just pissed off the wrong person.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really know about the government of Romania. This is why I love this format, by the way. This is the kind of interview I've always wanted to do with you and never had the chance to do when I had to cut like 10-minute, it has to go somewhere. I got to ask the questions. The publicist wants you to plug something, and that's why you're on the I mean, it's great to do, and it's great. I miss it. I'm not shitting on it, but this medium is better for other reasons, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I it's one of the things I love about podcasts, too, is my podcasts are whatever. What's the length of your podcast? Whatever.
Yeah, it's between 3 minutes and an hour and a half for me, Yeah.
If there's a good conversation, we're putting it all in.
And I have out of habit, I have all the questions there, and I never get to any of them. And I'm starting to think I should just show up to this show with a blank piece of paper. But I do want to talk about naturism, but maybe I don't know, the dark side. Is there a dark side of it, Stéphane?
A dark side. Well, the dark side of naturism is not naturism. And that's always been our problem. The dark side are those who exploit naturism, and they use it as a cloak of legitimacy to do hypersexualization, exploitation, and that kind of stuff. Or worse. Like one of my biggest problem is, pornography. What's pornography? Pornography requires the intent of the creator and the perception of the consumer. One of those two. So if I show you a picture of my foot right now, depending on what your fetish is, that's could be porn.
Yeah.
But if you're a podiatrist, it will just be, an interesting medical discussion.
Well, if you're a lucky podiatrist, it's both.
Yes,
you're in the right field.
Isn't that when you turn your hobby into your work or something, like one of those things? Right?
I was talking about this recently about sublimation. Like if you have urges to be a serial killer, but you're like a well-adjusted adult, maybe you work in a morgue and you never hurt anyone.
Right, and you channel that energy in a positive way.
If you're a pervert who wants to see people's feet, maybe you become a podiatrist, but you never treat your patients with anything but dignity and respect. You get your, not all foot fetishists are pervert. If you want to see strangers' feet, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, you're right. Pervert is judgmental, and
it is.
but
back to what you were saying, it's the people who act exploitatively.
The biggest issue right now is children, right? Children, and there's pedophiles everywhere, and oh my God, and so it's complicated. But a video of naturist children having fun on the beach is beautiful. They're cute, they're adorable. When I was young, that's the way it was. And today, the first thing everybody thinks is child porn. Oh my God, child porn.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are people who, if they get their hands on that, will sell it as child porn. But does that make the video child porn? Does that make it wrong? Does that mean we should stop? And my point always, if we stop having just normalized, happy, natural people in their natural state, the only thing that will be left is porn. And I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to give up the field to the people, in that case, who I will be judgmental, are perverts, or worse, really.
Interesting.
So, that's the dark side. The dark side is it's not naturism, but it's an interesting conundrum, because very rarely do people who are opposed to what you do actually pretend to be you. And so we were talking about misogynists earlier and all that stuff, right? So if you're a misogynist, you're not going to create a magazine called Feminism Today.
No.
You're not going to have a website going, with feminism pictures or whatever. However, people who want to sell the human body and objectify it do pretend to be nudists and naturists. And there's websites out there, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to give them any credence, who are selling naturism, but pretend to be. It gives them an aura of credibility, and also shields them from prosecution, because if they said, well, we're selling these nude children pictures to pedophiles, that makes them child pornographer. But if I put them on my website, I'm not. It's one of those things where context is everything, and intent. And people say, well, how can you tell intent? But intent in law is often part of how we decide to, the difference between whether you kill somebody and you go to jail or not is context and intent.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, how do you feel about the distribution of videos depicting anyone under the age of 18 or whatever would be illegal, but the having of them, the private use amongst you, your friends, your organization, like, don't you think that just selling it or giving it away to anyone could lead to that negative intent?
That would probably be fine there, but there might be a situation. Okay, so let's say I'm doing a movie about naturists, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore there's nudity and I'm selling that video. It's a complex world. And generally speaking, I think anybody who sells naturist videos for $100 for a 50-minute video, and there's a specific example I'm referencing, but I'm not telling you where, those people should be stopped. The problem is, in our society,
where do you draw the line? How do you decide?
How do you define it? And how do you define to not limit us? I mean, we have a principle, right, in Western democracies that you don't make laws restricting things. You try to minimize it. You don't try to be overbroad and overreach. And a lot of laws, particularly in the U.S. right now, in regards to child pornography, frankly, are overbroad. Taking pictures of your own children in the bathtub can get you in trouble, and that should not be.
Yeah, I want to tell you a story in a bit because it's really funny, but this conversation's serious, so we'll get there in a second.
Sure.
So you run Bare Oaks, which is in Ontario. It's a naturist location. Am I correct with this?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Do you allow photography? Do you allow video taking there?
We do. A lot of clubs prevent photography, have rules against any photography. And when my family was young, my children are 23 and 26 now. But when we were young, and before I owned the park and I could take vacations in the summer, we used to vacation often in naturist resorts, and the places would not let us take pictures. So we had no vacation pictures unless we were sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Of our family. Like everybody else has vacation pictures. People who are not naturists take pictures of their children playing on the beach in bathing suits, and nobody has any issues with that. So when with Bare Oaks, and I was thinking through the policy, I said, the only people that it truly prevents from taking pictures is people who have no ill intention. The people who want to take pictures will find a way. They'll get some sneaky camera in a bag, something like that, and hopefully we'll catch them. But it's not the rule. That prevent photography from anybody is not going to stop people who have bad intents from trying. So we say, as long as everybody consent to be in the pictures, go for it.
That was going to be my next question. Is there any rules? And obviously, consent seems like such an obvious baseline for that one.
Don't want to be in the picture? You don't have to be.
This is such an off, but I guess this is the beauty of a podcast. When I was a little kid, I was at summer camp, and I don't know, we had a Polaroid camera. I was like 13. And I'm, being an obnoxious kid, I take a photo of myself naked,
Yeah.
I want to gross out my counselor. So I don't know. Somehow he gets his hands on it and he's like, ew, that's disgusting. My counselor, unbeknownst to me, was dating my sister. So I guess he's, not the best guy to be dating. When they're driving in her car on a day off from the summer camp, he's like, take a look at this. And he shows my sister the Polaroid. Whatever. This is all fine and dandy to me. I don't give a fuck at this point. My sister, of course, like any rational human being, maybe not. Actually, maybe not. Maybe, your kids wouldn't care about this. But she says, ew, that's gross. And she throws it away. And it lands somewhere in the back of her Toyota 4Runner. Okay?
Okay.
A year later, she goes to cross the U.S. border for some concert, and the border guard thinks, I don't know, you're bringing pot into the U.S. You must be a weed smoker. So he starts taking apart her car to look for drugs. Obviously, there were no drugs.
Yeah.
He finds the photo, takes her into the interrogation room.
Wow.
And she's so flustered. They believe her story. She told them the truth. They let her go. But it's crazy how that whole thing should not have been. And I imagine what if she had sold the car to some dude who didn't know what that was and he didn't check the back seat. It's crazy how something like that could lead to serious jail time, sex offender registries. Yeah. I don't know if those exist in Canada, but they do in the US. And it's just crazy. That whole story to me is so crazy.
It is. And we actually have people here, men. I don't think I've had a woman ever say that to me, but young men particularly, it's younger generation, who have said to me they're uncomfortable because there's naked children running around. So they're not uncomfortable because they're getting turned on. They're uncomfortable because it's been so burned into their brain that this is like something you can't touch. You have to stay away from. Like this can ruin your life. There's nothing worse than being accused of being a pedophile. There is nothing worse. You can be Ted Bundy. It's not as bad as being a pedophile. Like eating people, no problem. We don't like it. But being a pedophile, that is the absolute worst.
I agree that pedophiles are some of the worst people out there, but what I don't agree with is like it's totally natural to be in nature, like naked with your family. Like again, I was saying I grew up in a naked house. You know, it didn't matter, and the idea that there was anything, you know, any foul play going on with us just hanging around naked. Obviously, my brothers beat the crap out of me. I suppose that was foul play, but never naked. But
I'm not saying that pedophiles shouldn't be viewed as bad people. Are they the worst? I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true.
I suppose eating people's pretty bad.
We feel, you know, torturing people cruelly, you know, giving them pain. People who have been, women who have been held for months in a little locked room in a basement. These are not nice people. But let's stop playing who's worse and who's not.
Yeah, I'm getting and I know I shouldn't be, but I'm getting the reaction that you're talking about right now. I'm like, should we be talking about this? You know, even though we're not saying anything bad.
That's the problem. The problem to me is not that they are not bad people. There's just not that many of them. It's not a common thing. It's not a huge problem. It's a problem, but we see them everywhere. And a lot of people are getting caught in this web. It's like being a communist in the 50s, 60s, when the McCarthy era.
The Red Scare, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that now. There is no, there's no gray area. There's no subtlety. You have a picture of a naked David in the back of your car, you're a pedophile.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's my brother. Doesn't matter. He's naked.
So I guess the problem we're talking about is the like extreme fear around anything that could be construed that, and that fear is encroaching on normal things that families should do. Yeah. And then the other thing is bad actors who come around with negative, ill intent to like profit off these people. Exactly.
Bear Oaks is no longer on Twitter, or X as it's called now, I think.
Yeah.
After 14 years, in January, our account abruptly disappeared.
They suspended it.
Boom. Suspended. Canceled. Gone. Erased. We don't exist. It tells you that the account doesn't exist.
There's so much pornography on Twitter. I have friends who do porn, right. And if you look at their Twitter streams, they are explicit, obscene, you know, this is not family-friendly stuff on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. And so the link, we had posted was a link to a blog post, which generated a preview from the blog post with an image. The image was a family on the beach at Bear Oaks, mom, dad, and 5 kids on the beach. You did not see anybody's genitals. You barely saw any rear ends because they're sitting on the sand. You did not see any female nipples at all either.
But that was enough.
That was, and not that anybody actually told us why. But we had no strike against us. We had never had a post removed before. It just disappeared. Gone.
My knee-jerk reaction is to say it would have had to have been reported, but maybe not. Maybe there's like a machine learning algorithm searching for this kind of stuff.
And we appealed. We did the appeal thing repeatedly. Never got even an answer.
It's ridiculous. Do you have people out there who so I mentioned it might have been someone who reported it, who was offended by it. Yeah. Do you have people out there who are, you know, I'm thinking of The Simpsons, you know, that Christian mother who's always saying, think of the children. You know, people out there who are out to get you because they feel what you're doing is wrong.
They're looking, there's people who are looking for that. There's these vigilantes.
Yeah.
That would social justice warriors, I guess, or something. I mean, although that's a good thing to a certain extent, but some people just take it too far and they just, you're guilty, you know, without a question. One of the ones I see is, and I'm pretty sure it's what it is, every now and then I get somebody who contacts Bear Oaks and say, hi, I'm 15 and I'm interested in coming to Bear Oaks, right? And I don't know what they expect. But I have a pat answer because it happens enough I say, anybody's welcome to come to Bear Oaks. We don't have an age limit, but we would never suggest you do something without talking to your parents first. And that's kind of I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of the answer that I would give everybody, because we have people who come here, kids who come here on their own sometimes, who are members, or the kids are members or whatever. So no, we don't really have to be 18 to come, because you don't have to be 18 to go and have a coffee at Starbucks either. And I'll argue that the caffeine is potentially more harmful than going around without any clothes on.
I mean, the only thing harmful about going around without any clothes on is, insects, ticks, bugs, sitting on a thorny bush. It could be dangerous.
That's true, but the bathing suits won't help very much for that. Well,
I agree with you there.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of those that we're getting. I think are people, they're prodding to see, they say, oh, send us a picture and then we'll let you know, or something. I don't know what they expect. I don't know what they're looking for.
Oh, they're fishing to kind of trap you into exposing you for, wow.
I think that's what it is. And to be fair, I'm sure there are pedophiles out there who pretend to be naturists and nudists, and that's their defense for why they have, thousands of pictures of children that they don't know.
Have you ever had to kick out people who are just making other guests uncomfortable, or? Yes,
but it's not children. We've had a few instances that parents get worried. Again, there's that fear, right?
Yeah. So I suppose people aren't immune to it, even if they are naturists. The fear.
No, of course not, and they're afraid and everything else. I mean, it's a safe environment because the kids are with their parents. It's teachers or sports coaches or whatever. Those are the ones who often get caught having done things because they are left in charge of children alone in some cases, right?
How can you forget the priests?
Oh, the priests. Yes, of course. The priests. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to exclude them.
So offensive, to the priests.
Yes, no, exactly. So, yeah. So most of the time, the problem we have is men who are trying to hit on women because they think it's the wrong reason. It's not that common. Thousands of people every summer, 6, 8, maybe, get ejected because of that kind of thing.
I feel like on a given night at a nightclub where, there's drunk, vulnerable people and then creepers hitting on them, the numbers are exponentially more.
But we've had absolutely, but we've had a few situations with parents, and it's interesting. So I think of one particular example. We'll call him Bob. So Bob was clearly a little bit had some issues in terms of socially awkward, perhaps not as perhaps on the spectrum somewhere, didn't communicate particularly clearly. He enjoyed playing with the kids. He just enjoyed being with the child, but he was a single man by himself. And he was a little odd because of that. And some parents thought he was great, and others were really concerned.
Yeah.
So I said to Bob, Bob, you really you can't play with the kids. It makes some parents uncomfortable, and you have to stop doing that. And he kind of said, okay, fine. So then he would still sit around and watch the kids at the pool.
Oh boy. I don't think there's anything wrong with Bob. I'm just saying, oh boy, the optics of it seem off.
It's a very difficult situation. And so I said, Bob, I wasn't clear. Like, you cannot look at the children. If the children show up, you have to move somewhere else. If you want to stay here, you have to not be anywhere near them so that parents are comfortable. And some parents still blame me for not kicking him out on the spot. But then there was a whole other group who were saying, look, the guy is, he's clearly not quite of the same maturity as the rest of us. He's more like a child. Like, this is not fair. So there were two very clear camps, which makes it very difficult. So he said yes. But then another month or so went by, and he started chatting with a kid that walked by his chair, and it happened to be a parent who just thought he was like Satan's second coming or something. And so I had no choice, and I'd say, I'm sorry, you can't come anymore.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad, because I really don't think there was anything wrong, any danger from him. And he certainly wasn't going to be able to do anything because there was always people watching, and the kids were always with their parents anyway. So that's more the situation that we get, is people who are socially awkward and parents who are, well, a little paranoid, let's say.
I think you probably did the right thing catering to the paranoid parents. If I was in your shoes, do you wear shoes when you're at the preserve?
Yeah, because I don't walk around barefoot enough. My son never wears shoes, and he can walk on gravel without any shoes, but I can't do that.
I suppose I was correct to say if I was in your shoes, I might have done the same thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no. Sometimes you have to make a decision based on it's a business, right? It's not a democracy. It's not part of society. So you have to weigh: do I lose one or do I lose 12? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose, and it all falls on you running the place. Like you're the judge, the jury, the executioner.
Yeah. Yep. As I say, it's a benevolent dictatorship. So
There's what is it? BDFL, Benevolent Dictator for Life. Have you heard of this acronym?
no, I haven't. No, I hope not for life. That sounds like a sentence.
Yeah, it does. Are you still involved with the World Naturist Foundation?
The International Naturist Federation.
That's what I said. I was
yes,
correct.
yes,
I
exactly.
was well researched. It's what I said.
You were describing it, not using the official name. So that's
yeah. You were the president, were you not? Are you still?
I am still the president. Yes, I am indeed. And yeah, I spent a lot of time traveling to Europe as a result, and which is, there's much worse things in the world, but it can get tiring to spend a lot of time going back and forth.
What do you do? Like, what are these summits, symposiums, meetings? What gets done at the International Naturist Federation, the INF?
Well, I describe the INF just like the United Nations.
The IMF? Is it like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund?
Well, no, because they actually have a lot of power.
Oh,
it's more like the United Nations where they have no power. At the United Nations, all the countries get together and they talk and they share and hopefully they cooperate. Not always true, but ultimately they hold votes, but the votes are meaningless. There's no way to enforce them. And the INF is the same. The INF exists so that all the 30, I think it's 36 federations. I should know that number by heart, but I don't. So we coordinate their efforts. We help them share. We organize meetings of all the federations. We coordinate projects and activities. We're there to answer questions.
Media relations, maybe? Do you do a lot of that stuff?
Not as much on that level. I want to do more. But in the past, we did a press release once a few years ago criticizing social media for the censorship of naturism. And we coordinated with a number of federations who chose to participate. Not all, because that's their choice. And so we released all together at the same time. And nobody called the International Naturist Federation. They call their local ones, but it gave it a boost. The fact that it was an international effort by the INF meant that the people in the UK, the journalists in the UK, found it even more interesting to call British naturism to get their take on what it means for their country.
Interesting. So as a sort of a pilot of a first coordinated press release, the next time you need to do it, you sort of learn the ropes of that.
Exactly.
So how many, do you call them all preserves? Do you call them all plate? Like what's a spot where I can go naked and it's an organization that controls the area or
well, at Barrows I call it a park. Some people call them clubs or resorts. I don't like to. I've never wanted to use the term resorts because I figured that's over-promising.
Yeah.
A resort to me is got to be pretty big. So clubs they're often called clubs, especially if the ones that are cooperative, because there are many that
are uncooperative.
No, they're cooperative inside. They have they're a cooperative, a co-op.
Oh, okay.
They're member owned, right?
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do cooperate internally, but that's not always true, I've learned. So,
how many of these places kind of report up to the International Federation?
Well, see, that's the thing is nobody reports up.
Well, how many places are sort of like within your purview?
Well, our members, our owners, our shareholders are the federation. So there's 30, I think it's 36 countries have a federation that we have recognized, which means they have to be legally set up in each country as an entity, and the clubs are members of those federations in most cases. Sometimes in some countries there's different models, right? And every country is different ways. It's like there is in the UN and where there's different types of governments. So in some places, naturists are direct members of the federations.
Okay.
And in other places, you can only be a member through a club or a federation or a resort. So, and how many clubs or resorts are there? Thousands.
And how many people?
That's a good question. I should know the answer to that, but I don't know.
What a terrible president you are. You're fired. Yeah.
I know, right?
You're going to be
Right.
impeached. Is there an impeachment process?
It's hundreds of thousands of people. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
But the exact number, I don't know. And yes, there is an impeachment process. So please feel free to begin one.
I'd have to join first, which I would. I feel like I'm a naturist in spirit. I know I said I would come to Bear Oaks next time I was in Toronto, but I really haven't been there much since, I don't know, last 2 Aprils ago. But I'm going to come, and I'll say hello. And I am friendly with this comedian who does a show at your place, Natalie Norman. She's on this show a bunch. Do you know Natalie well, or?
Yeah. She's been here very well. She's been here a number of times, and where we have nice chats. We always have dinner when the comedians come here. They come here early. They enjoy the facilities. We have dinner together, so we always have nice chats. And Natalie is wonderful, and she really loves it here. I'm surprised she doesn't come on her own, actually.
Yeah, maybe meet her, and I'm trying to think if my girlfriend will be mad. Nah, she probably won't. If me and Natalie next time I'm in Canada come together to Bear Oaks, we might. Yeah,
sure.
Be fodder for this show at the very least. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do want to thank you for coming here.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure.
This was a lot of fun. And when I was thinking of the people who I met doing that show for Bell, who I wanted to go a little deeper with, wherever the conversation goes, we follow it. I was thinking you were high on that list, so I'm so glad you did this.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to come on anytime you want to have a chat about anything to do with nudity, body image, or, world economics, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we could talk about nudity and body image. I don't know. I guess I need to work out more, but that's a me problem.
Yeah. What's the show called?
It's called This Is Going Well, I think.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You like the name?
I do.
Yeah.
But I can see how people would say, so what's it about?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. That's my response to that. No, it's sort of like a little bit. It's like my late night show, but a little looser, a little wackier, a little less. Well, I do get political, but not the politics of the day. I'm not going to cover a story that was in the media necessarily. Just a little bit more weird, a little bit more deep, a little bit more stream of consciousness, and a little bit more experimental at times. Like I take more creative risks and do bizarro, fucked up radio. A little more vulgar, as I swear.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's something I'm working on until I hopefully land my next radio gig.
Good.
That's all
or it becomes a radio gig on its own.
Yeah, that's also the hope. Except I'll have to stop swearing. But that's not not hard for me.
I guess swearing is like nudity. We still have on the main airwaves this idea that it's not there, even though it's everywhere.
Never sweared on Canadian radio. I've sweared on U.S. radio, but the profanity was dumped. We were on a digital delay, and we hit you're on a 6 or 8 second delay.
Yeah.
We hit the button, so to the listener, it just sounds like a weird blip in the conversation. So I've actually never sworn on commercial radio, and I've done thousands of hours of it. So I think I'm pretty good. I love swearing, but I'm good not swearing. I don't know how you are.
I try not to overuse it. Some people use it all the time. I want it to remain something that makes a point when I want to make a point very strongly.
You want to keep it special.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise it loses its purpose. It's just a word.
But I think it'd be better if they were just words. I mean, they're just words, right?
Well, they are just words, and they are very culturally based, right? And being a native French speaker, I can tell you that the swears between Quebec and France are completely different.
Yeah. I mean, are you good with French, or you? Yeah.
Well, one, I spend a lot of time there now, but secondly, I grew up with my mother, who's from Belgium.
Okay.
So that was a different French anyway.
Can you flip into it when you're talking to a French speaker?
I can. I can speak in a way that, and a French person told me just the other day, I said from Quebec, and they said, well, you don't have the accent. So I'm sure I do. But mostly the issue is I use words that they don't work. We have different words, right? It's like British versus American.
Yeah.
Like, the boot and the lorry and all those things.
I was just thinking lorry, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can, when you're in Quebec, you can function Quebecois French, and then when you're in France, you flip. So you really speak at least 3 languages. You speak English, Quebec French, and France French.
That's right. Yes, and I changed my accent because I have both in there in my brain, and it adapts. But I think I have an accent in France. But there's so many accents in France. They don't. It's not strong enough to be a Quebec accent, so they can't quite place. It might have just from Normandy or something like that. Is that why the accent is from?
That's like my Canadian accent in the U.S. Now that I've been here 10 years, people can't quite place it. I'll say a word wrong every now and again. And they're like, where are you from? But because I've been living here long enough, I've massaged out the key indicators. Like I say about, I don't say about. Anyway. All right. Stéphane Deschênes. Did I say it right? That was always my fear, but I don't think I've ever said it.
Très bien.
Stéphane Deschênes. Très bien. Thanks for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Okay. Likewise. Call me again.
I might just, and I might see you in person. And I love your microphone.
That would be even better. We could do a live show together.
I'd love that. I'm fine being naked. I could, if that's a part of it.
Yeah. Well, it would have to be. Come on, let's make it something special.
It's weird having a large erect penis for my body size and a very small flaccid penis. Because it's like there's two Davids. Like if you get me in a private moment when it really counts, when I'm being intimate, people are pleasantly surprised. It's not huge. We're talking 6.5. If I angle the ruler right, 7.
It just doesn't matter, David. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, to you it doesn't matter, but it's like when people get cosmetic surgery for themselves. Like their husband doesn't care if their boobs are bigger, but
I know, but I've had many. Not many. I've had several girlfriends in my life, and they've had all sizes of breasts, and it was just as much fun with all of them.
Yeah. I agree with that. Even though I'm an ass man, but but then there's a certain confidence from knowing that, like, okay, when I have an erection, it's like I do okay. Like I'm not huge. I'm not a 10-inch, But so I can confidently be naked in public with my small penis and be like, it's like you got this. But I just have a lot of hang-ups about that is all,
I know. And that's what men have caught up to women in terms of that. And I think women with a little bit of glee have really jumped on the bandwagon and go, oh yeah, size matters. If you really ask a woman, it doesn't matter that much. But they love to make the joke because it's a little bit of payback for all of the boob jokes that they've been suffering all their lives. And I understand why they'd want to do that.
And the way that men have controlled women's body images since, forever. But yeah, I was mentioning these penis injections to a female guest of mine, a woman, and she was like, good. She's like, I'm glad those exist. I'm like, why? Do you think men should have bigger? She's like, no. I'm glad that you guys are doing shitty, awful, and feeling procedures on yourself and feeling pressure to do those procedures because that means we're finally equal. Like, this is what equality means, that men have to do shitty things because they feel bad about themselves because of the culture.
Yeah, we're all equally fucked up now. It's awesome.
All right, Stéphane, thanks for doing the show. I appreciate your time.